I'm Nicholas Bornels of Capital Inc., and I am delighted to welcome you to the second day of our Jones Act in the U.S. Flag Forum. We are privileged to start the second day of our forum with a keynote presentation by Mr. Carl Bentzel, the commissioner from the Federal Maritime Commission, and he is going to share his insight on the very important topic of the state of U.S. shipping. And as we were just discussing, I guess the current geopolitical events underpin the importance and significance of the U.S. shipping and the Jones Act. So, Commissioner, thank you for being with us. The floor is yours.
Nicholas, thanks for the opportunity. This is a very important conference. Whenever I consider attempts to modify the Jones Act, I'm stunned, frankly. It's fundamentally ceding additional control over maritime assets is just really inconceivable. So strong supporter for the Jones Act and the services provided, the jobs for mariners that we need. We need to have competency in maritime shipping, and the Jones Act provides that. Annie, you can go ahead and put on my presentation. And flip to the first slide. While this is a presentation about the Jones Act, I think it's really helpful to get a context of what's going on internationally, juxtaposing that to the current situation in the Jones Act, and little description about the Federal Maritime Commission. We're an independent regulatory agency established in 1961, but actually our predecessor agencies were established as far back as 1916. So, one of our leaders was Joseph Kennedy, the President Kennedy's father. So we've had some illustrious commissioners in the past, and we have 5 commissioners nominated by the president. The majority party is in charge. We have 3 Democratic commissioners and 2 Republicans with staggered terms of 5 years, and we get along well. We have a really good collegial environment at the Federal Maritime Commission. I'm here representing my own individual views as a commissioner, but the agency is a pleasant place to work, and I think we try to consider the issues on the merits and not on any political position or party. We have authorized personnel of 128 employees. We're not there right now. We're underpowered, frankly, given the challenges. We have people in Washington, D.C., New York, Miami, New Orleans, Houston, LA, Long Beach, and Seattle. And our representatives in the field, our investigators, our area representatives, as we call them. You can go to the next slide, Annie. Our mission is to ensure that we have a fair, reliable system of international ocean shipping that's largely containerized cargo, and that we protect the public from unfair and deceptive practices. We regulate $1.5 trillion of commerce that's transported into and out of the United States, and probably another $4 or $5 trillion of affiliated services that are provided ancillary to the movement of cargo. We have authority to provide a limited antitrust exception if we are able to agree with provisions to allow an agreement to go into effect between ocean carriers and marine terminal operators. I'm a judge, so we investigate on complaints, and we have authorities to mediate and provide ombudsman service. And additionally, we have a trade authority at the Federal Maritime Commission to consider unfair shipping practices of foreign governments. Annie, you can go to the next slide. Just briefly, we have, of course, our attorneys that are in charge of prosecuting malpractices, and you can probably slip through the next one. And as I mentioned, representatives located in jurisdictions throughout the United States, looking into violations of the Shipping Act, educating the public on issues and compliance, and basically keeping an eye on what's happening in the shipping world. Next slide. We're seeing a unique situation in the United States, brought about by COVID-19. We've had a situation prior to COVID-19 that the industry was moving cargo effectively, efficiently. There was a lot of capacity, and what we saw during COVID was immediately after the pandemic started, reductions in cargo coming into the United States of about 20% of containerized cargoes, in particular to the West Coast, as manufacturing in China was eliminated. And that basically was, I remember writing a letter to the Congress urging assistance for U.S. maritime companies and terminals so that they could continue to pay leases. But by May and June of that year, the beginning of the pandemic, it had completely reversed itself, and we've gone from 20% down to 20% up. So we had a swing approximately of about a 40% volume, and frankly, we were unprepared for that swing, and that was the beginning of what is the congestion that we see today, that is impacting our economy, that's creating inflation, and we've never caught up with the market demands, and are struggling right now with delays and operational challenges. Ocean carriers are reaping huge profits. It's estimated the profits could be as high as $240 billion. Spot rates are up over. We've had reports of requests for containers that have been above $30,000. And so there's record profits, record demands, and last month there were 150 ships outside of U.S. ports waiting for berthing space throughout the United States, mostly in LA Long Beach, but we have situations in New York and Charleston, periodically in Savannah, and the Pacific Northwest, and Oakland. And so it's been very difficult for the industry, and I would say that it's being driven by the volumes of cargo that we are consuming in the United States. It's the primary challenge. So you combine congestion-related reductions of capacity and increases of capacity of product coming in, and you have a perfect storm. Andy, you can go to the next slide. While we are seeing a situation right now where generally, in particular, rates and services from the Asia to the United States are generating rates that are 300 to 500% higher than prior to the pandemic, and services that are taking 2 or 3 times longer than prior to the pandemic. We're challenged, and I don't blame the industry on this. I actually believe this is a function of supply and demand, and the challenges of addressing that surge of cargo in the pandemic. But the result is, this is the first time in my view since World War II that we've not been able to deliver the cargo that we wanted to deliver to the United States. In contrast to that, the U.S. Jones Act fleet has remained stable. providing services. They've had equipment, so they maintain regularly scheduled services to the areas that they provide. Rates are not much different from what they were prior to the pandemic. So if there are increases in pricing in the Hawaii or Puerto Rico or some of the Jones Act destinations, they're more of a function of the products themselves and inflation than anything that the U.S. carriers are doing. And frankly, I think a lot of the shippers in those trades should be appreciative of being in the Jones Act service trades as opposed to the challenges we're facing in the international side. They manage their equipment very well and their services very well. I've visited Jacksonville, the Port of Jacksonville, primary embarkation point for service to Puerto Rico, and met with Matson Navigation, and really they are moving cargo without any problem. They have equipment. It's coordinated landside activities, and so the rates are about what they were. Services is consistent, and that's contrasting with the challenges that were faced in the international trade. And so really should be a wake-up call about the value of a dedicated domestic service. Annie, you can go to the next slide. As a result of the challenges in the what's going on in the international, we're having to take a lot of actions at the FMC to review the practices of the carriers, to implement new requirements as a result of some of the challenges of shipping, and it's really been a huge effort undertaking, and I really appreciate our staff and some of the things that we've done. I believe will have a positive impact as we move forward. We are now auditing all major ocean carriers. We're auditing them in terms of the assessment of detention and demurrage, other practices, whether or not they're providing services to export shippers from the United States. And we've taken some initial legal actions as a result of some of the audits. I would say that we've had a lot of compliance. The carriers have really stepped up and are proactively looking at what they're doing and trying to do better. I don't think they want to be in a situation where we have such problems with respect to service. We are moving forward. Just recently, we put an advance notice of proposed rulemaking on detention and demurrage and the assessment of detention and demurrage fees. We're soliciting comments from the public. The intent is to get a better system of how these charges are being assessed. There was over $2.5 billion assessed in detention and demurrages and demurrage fees this past year. A lot of it's being caused as a result of congestion. So they're really not the fault of a carrier or a shipper, but they're being charged. And so we're going to look at the process of issuing detention and demurrage fees as we go forward. We've established a new advisory committee. This is the first at the FMC to get more input from shippers to ensure that that we're looking at the right things. And there are a variety of fees and charges that are being assessed as the industry moves forward. There are legitimate issues related to cargo being not taken out of ports adequately, demurrage, and then there's also issues related to the detention, not allowing equipment to get back into circulation at the terminals. So it's contributing to a situation where our economy has been impacted significantly. I was out in Utah visiting the inland port of Utah, and a variety of shippers were there, and I met with some of the home builders in Utah, and they told me that there was they planned to build 205,000 residential units in that area. I don't know what a residential unit is, but it's something you can live in. And because of shipping issues, not market issues, they'd only been able to complete about 140,000 of those. And that's directly attributable to challenges getting supplies. And so it just illustrates what the challenge has been to the economy, and it has been caused by shipping. So as you look at the Jones Act, you need to take cognizance of what's happened internationally, what it's meant to us. Annie, you can go to the next slide. Long term, we are also undertaking some initiatives to assess the system of movement of cargo through our ports. We have authority to require and enforce reasonable practices relating to or connected with receiving, handling, storing, and delivering property. And so as part of this authority, we're looking at the data flow of information related to shipping, looking at the lexicon to describe it, and we've started meetings with the public to determine what sort of information they need to more efficiently move cargo. And we are hopeful, Annie, I think you can go to the next slide, of creating elements of information from the point of loading to the point of delivery through the vessel operations, terminal operations, trucking and railroad to the point of delivery, to ensure that we can provide to the shipping public transparent, accessible information on how to assess where their cargo is and to plan their cargo movements. It's just amazing to me that I can order a Domino's pizza and I know when it's taken out of the oven, and I know when it's in transit, I know when it's delivered. They'll take a picture and they'll send it to me with notifications throughout the process. But in maritime shipping, we have a situation where you have literally hundreds of thousands and millions of cargo being shipped, and we're really not paying sufficient attention and in the movement of that cargo as we should. So we're hopeful that we can come up with some standards. Annie, I think you could go to the next slide. The plan is to identify the data that's needed in each step in the transmission process, identify where there are gaps, develop a lexicon for the movement of cargo, and make recommendations about a common system of information that should be provided to the public. Hopefully in June, that's our target. And with that, you can go to the, I think it's the last slide, in June. And so we're gonna solicit views from the public, but the intent is to establish national standards that should be provided to the public on maritime shipping. So I just cannot believe, frankly, that we don't have something in place given the magnitude of the issues. So there's a lot of challenges in the international side of the equation, and they have not been present in the Jones Act, where you have dedicated services providing reliable transportation movements to those areas that are Jones Act. It's just critically important that we continue to educate our personnel, seamen, merchant marine, on how to ship, and the Jones Act is a vital part of that. I hope as you go through your discussions and presentations that the people realize the challenge that we are having in the international market and what that means to consideration of the Jones Act. I've had a lot of calls from the White House, from people in the administration about the challenges of shipping, and frankly, it's disconcerting that the Federal Maritime Commission may have more authority over international shipping than anyone else, because these are entities that are foreign governments in some cases, and foreign companies and others. Right now, on our international side, less than 1% of our cargo is transported by U.S. flag ships. About 23% of it, our containerized cargo, is transported by the state-owned enterprise companies that are under the control of the Chinese government, as controlled carriers. 100% of all marine containers are manufactured in China by state-owned enterprises. 86% of all of our intermodal chassis that are used in the United States for movement of cargo are also manufactured by Chinese state-owned enterprises. And there's substantial investment in our terminal system from foreign companies. So we really have ceded a lot of our authority over international shipping, and it should be a concern. We have to have more ability to rely on our own companies and civilians going forward. And I think this crises that we've had on supply chain should be illustrative of the challenge that we face, and sometimes relying on international shipping. So I think I'm at the end of my time. I've sort of gotten to a point where I can turn it back over to you, Nick, to proceed however you see fit. So I'll do that.
Commissioner Bentzel, thank you very much. It has been a very detailed and insightful presentation, and it's been a privilege to have you with us. So thank you very, very much for sharing your insight on this great topic.
No problem at all, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.